We're about to pull back the curtain on something huge. One of the biggest economic stories in India that somehow almost no one is talking about. It's this quiet revolution that's totally reshaping the country's future, and we're going to dive right in. Okay, so let me just start with this question for you. What if one of India's biggest, most powerful industries was hiding in plain sight? I mean, a sector that's pulling in billions and employing millions, but it's so woven into the fabric of our economy that most of us, we just don't see it for the giant it really is.
So this whole thing really starts with a puzzle, a mystery in the data. Look at this, NASSCOM, right? They estimate the national IT growth at about 3.3%. Pretty standard. But then you look at Karnataka, the heart of India's IT, we're talking 40% of the whole sector. And their state survey says they grew at a blistering 12.6%. So wait a minute, how can a massive part of the industry be growing almost 4 times faster than the whole thing? The math, it just doesn't add up. Something's missing.
Well, the missing piece, the answer to that puzzle is something called a Global Capability Center, or GCC. And let's be super clear here. When I say GCC, I don't want you thinking about old school call centers. No way. These are the high-tech brains, the R&D hubs, the operational nerve centers for the world's biggest companies, and they're all based right here in India. And the thing is, their real economic impact, it's been completely underestimated, until now.
Okay, so that brings us right to the heart of it all. How did these centers become this, hidden engine driving the Indian economy?
Back in the day, the whole idea was pretty simple. Big multinational companies would set up shop in India mainly to save money. Handling basic support stuff. They were the back office, the crew working behind the scenes to keep the lights on.
But that feels like ancient history now. Today's GCCs, they've gone through this incredible transformation. I mean, they're not just supporting the business anymore. In a lot of cases, they are the business. They're the ones driving global innovation, leading R&D, and setting the high-level strategy for these corporate giants.
And the sheer scale of this change, it's just staggering. We're now seeing new, much more accurate numbers based on actual financial data. And get this, by the 2025 fiscal year, GCC revenue is projected to hit an absolutely incredible $178 billion. Now, to help you wrap your head around that number, $178 billion, that's about 4.5% of India's entire GDP. Think about that. This isn't some tiny niche industry we're talking about. This is a fundamental pillar of the whole national economy. And this quote here from Sayeda Mehertaj at EY, it just nails it. The next wave of GCCs in India won't just serve global businesses, they will define them. I mean, really think about what that means. It's a total mindset shift. It's not about just doing what you're told anymore. It's about owning the strategy, defining the future, and leading some of the world's biggest companies, and doing it all from India.
So what's pouring fuel on this fire? What's driving this crazy growth? Well, it really boils down to 2 things: talent and the massive amounts of money that are chasing that talent.
Right now, there's a full-on talent war raging. You've got traditional IT services where starting salaries have kind of flatlined for years, and then in come the GCCs, and they're just blowing the doors off, often doubling the starting salary, offering over 8 lakh rupees to get the best and brightest grads. You can imagine the shockwaves this is sending through the whole tech hiring scene.
And look, we're not just talking about first jobs here. This is about career-defining leadership roles. The number of these top-tier positions inside GCCs is set to just explode. We're looking at a jump from about 6,500 today to a projected 30,000 by 2030. That's almost a 5-fold increase. These are the people who will be making the huge, mission-critical decisions for global companies.
But there's a catch, a big one. The demand for next-gen skills, especially AI, is just off the charts. The problem? Only a tiny fraction, like 2.5% of engineers actually have those skills right now. So what's happening? A massive scramble. You have 86% of these companies basically in crisis mode, desperately retraining their own people just to try and close this massive skills gap. All this growth is also shining a really harsh light on a serious problem, the gender gap at the executive level. It's pretty shocking, actually. While women make up a huge, vital part of the tech workforce, they hold only 6.7% of the top leadership jobs in GCCs. And look, closing this gap isn't just the right thing to do. It's a business necessity. You can't reach your full potential if you're leaving that much talent on the sidelines.
Now, an expansion this massive, it can't be contained in just a few big cities. This revolution is spreading out. It's going national. Don't get me wrong, the big players, Bengaluru, Chennai, Hyderabad, they are still absolute powerhouses.
Just in the last 18 months, they snapped up a mind-boggling 75% of all new office space leased by GCCs. That's huge. But the next chapter of this story, the real growth frontier, that's being written in India's so-called Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. The spotlight is shifting to places like Ahmedabad, Coimbatore, Chandigarh. This is the new battleground for talent and for investment.
So why the big move? Well, it's just smart business. For the companies, it means lower costs, people stick around longer, and they get to tap into these amazing undiscovered talent pools. And for the employees, it's often a much better quality of life, away from the crazy traffic and high costs of the megacities. It's a win-win.
Okay, so India is a giant in this space, for sure. But it's not the only player on the field. As this whole GCC model gets more and more popular, the global competition is definitely heating up.
Let's take the Philippines, for example. It's interesting because they're not really a direct competitor. It's more like they're a complementary partner. See, India brings this incredible scale and super deep technical talent for the really complex engineering stuff. The Philippines, on the other hand, is amazing at customer-facing roles, thanks to their incredible English skills and cultural ties to the West. And this has led to this really smart dual-shore strategy that big global companies are using. Basically, they use India as the high-powered engine for all their core tech and R&D. Then, they use the Philippines for world-class customer service and support. It's genius, really. You're taking the best of both worlds to create one super-efficient global machine.
So, we've seen this absolutely spectacular growth. But what's next? What does the future hold for India's GCCs? The road ahead looks bright, yeah? But it's definitely got some major bumps and challenges along the way.
If India wants to stay at the top of the pile, the GCC sector has to tackle some serious hurdles. First, that skills gap in AI, it's priority number one. They have to close it. Then, as they move into these smaller cities, they're going to run into infrastructure problems. That's a given. And all the while, they've got to keep innovating like crazy to stay one step ahead of global competitors and the huge wave of AI and automation that's coming for everyone.
And that brings us to the final and maybe the most important question of all. This entire GCC revolution, it was built on the back of India's incredible human talent. But now, as AI starts to redefine what work even is, automating even highly skilled jobs, can that human talent adapt and evolve fast enough to keep India at the very heart of global innovation? That, right there, is the multi-billion-dollar question that's going to define everything for the next decade.